Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the most wonderfully wild kitchen in the whole wide world. This is Professor Crumble's laboratory, where bubbling beakers sit right next to butter dishes, and the smell of something absolutely magnificent fills the air. Today, the professor has just finished baking his legendary cheese pie, the one he has been perfecting for 37 years. He sets it on the windowsill with an enormous, proud smile. Meanwhile, deep inside the walls of the laboratory, a pair of enormous green eyes blink open in the darkness. That's Zippy, the smallest, sneakiest, and most cheese-obsessed mouse you will ever meet. He twitches his tiny nose, sniffs the air once, twice, and then his whole face lights up like a firework. Cheese pie. The most glorious smell in the universe has found its way right to his little whiskers. Professor Crumble wasn't born yesterday, though. He switches on his latest invention, Clunk, the robo-dog. With a loud bzzzt and a shower of sparks, Clunk's orange eyes flicker to life. His antenna tail wags so fast it knocks over a jar of pickles. The professor pats Clunk on the head and points firmly at the cheese pie. Guard that pie, Clunk. Not a crumb goes missing. Clunk salutes proudly and takes his position. Zippy peeks out from behind a flower pot and surveys the room like a tiny general planning a great mission. He spots the golden cheese pie on the windowsill, and his eyes turn into two glowing hearts. He also spots Clunk standing stiffly in front of it, looking very official. Zippy strokes his chin thoughtfully, pulls a tiny rolled-up map from his scarf, unfolds it with a dramatic flourish, and begins to plan his approach. Zippy leaps onto the windowsill and reaches out his tiny paws toward the magnificent cheese pie. The golden crust gleams. The cheesy aroma wraps around him like a warm hug. His little fingers are just 1 centimeter away. But then, whoosh, Clunk recovers, rockets across the room, and slides to a stop right in front of the pie, crossing his metal arms with a triumphant clank. Zippy freezes, paws still outstretched, and gulps. Zippy's contraption is a peanut butter-powered catapult. He loads it carefully with a big sticky glob of peanut butter, aims at the opposite wall, and fires. Splat! The peanut butter sails across the kitchen and hits Clunk square on his face panel. The robot dog shakes his head, but the peanut butter covers both his orange eyes completely. Clunk stumbles around blindly, bumping into chairs, the table, and the professor's prize-winning cactus collection. The noise wakes Professor Crumble upstairs. The old inventor peers over the stair railing, sees the kitchen in mild chaos, and lets out a startled yelp. He rushes downstairs in his stripy pajamas and sleep cap, waving his arms. He quickly wipes the peanut butter off Clunk's eyes and reboots the robot dog with a firm tap on the back of his metal head. Clunk's eyes flash red this time. The security setting is now ON. Zippy dives under the kitchen sink and hides behind an oversized rubber duck. He peeks out carefully. Red-eyed Clunk is something else entirely. The robot dog is now scanning every corner of the kitchen with laser precision, red beams sweeping left and right across the floor like a security system. Zippy watches the laser beams and realizes this is going to be much trickier than before. He pulls out a tiny notepad and starts sketching his next plan. Zippy sneaks into the pantry and gazes upward at shelves packed with colorful cans and jars. A brilliant idea explodes in his brain like a firecracker. He begins rolling cans of soup, beans, and spaghetti sauce out of the pantry one by one, arranging them in a very specific pattern across the kitchen floor, like an obstacle course. His tiny muscles strain comically as he pushes each heavy can into position with a determined grunt. When Clunk marches over to investigate, he steps right into Zippy's trap. His big metal feet knock into the cans, which roll and clatter wildly. Clunk slips, skids, and performs an absolutely incredible accidental breakdance across the kitchen floor. Arms spinning, legs sliding, before crashing upside down into the recycling bin with a spectacular boom crash clonk. His legs stick up in the air and wiggle helplessly. Zippy doubles over with silent laughter behind a sugar bowl. Zippy rockets toward the windowsill, faster than a sneeze in a hurricane. He leaps onto the counter, skids on a butter dish, spins 3 full times, and somehow lands perfectly right in front of the cheese pie. He raises both tiny arms in victory. The warm golden crust is right there. He reaches forward with trembling, joyful paws, when the professor suddenly re-enters the kitchen, yawning loudly, holding his empty morning tea mug. Zippy freezes solid. The professor shuffles straight to the kettle with his eyes barely open, yawning so enormously he doesn't notice the tiny frozen mouse statue right next to his precious pie. Zippy slowly, carefully, millimeter by millimeter, inches one tiny paw toward the pie crust. The kitchen clock ticks loudly. Zippy's paw gets closer and closer, and Clunk suddenly bursts free from the recycling bin with a tremendous metallic crash, sending cans flying everywhere. Zippy leaps backward in fright. Now the real chase begins. Clunk, eyes blazing red, charges after Zippy at full speed. Zippy darts under the table, over a rolling pin, through the handle of a coffee mug, under a falling stack of pancakes, and around the spinning Lazy Susan on the kitchen table, twice. Each time Clunk lunges, he just barely misses, crashing into something new. The professor spins around bewildered, watching his kitchen become the most chaotic racetrack in history. Zippy scrambles up the side of the refrigerator like a tiny furry rocket, using the handle as a launching pad, and lands on the very top. He looks down at Clunk, who is trying desperately to climb up but keeps slipping on the shiny surface, front paws squeaking uselessly against it. Zippy catches his breath and feels the cool breeze from the fridge vent ruffling his red scarf dramatically. He allows himself a small, satisfied smile. For about 3 seconds. Zippy leaps and grabs the washing line with both paws. He swings forward like a tiny circus performer, grabbing each hanging lab coat and launching himself from one to the next, whipping across the whole kitchen through the air. Below, Clunk watches in open-mouthed mechanical amazement, running back and forth trying to follow. The professor looks up from his tea, absolutely baffled. A mouse, swinging, across his kitchen ceiling. He blinks very, very slowly and adjusts his spectacles. But Clunk is not done. His red eyes lock onto the pie thief and he charges forward at maximum speed, metal feet thundering across the tile floor. Clunk, 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 clunk. He's going so fast that his antenna tail is a spinning blur. Zippy grabs the cheese pie, tucks it under one arm like a football, and leaps off the windowsill just as Clunk's jaws snap shut on nothing but fresh air. The chase is back on. Zippy sprints through the kitchen, into the hallway, up a bookshelf, along the curtain rod, and back into the kitchen again, still clutching that cheese pie. Clunk thunders after him, knocking over stacks of books and tangling himself magnificently in the curtains before breaking free with a determined roar. The professor runs after both of them waving a wooden spoon, his sleek cap flying off his head. The whole laboratory echoes with crashing, clanging, and shrieking. Then suddenly, everything stops. Zippy trips on a loose floor tile, and the cheese pie goes flying. It spins through the air in magnificent slow motion, rotating like a golden planet. Zippy, Clunk, and Professor Crumble all freeze and watch it with wide eyes, all 3 of them reaching out their arms helplessly as it tumbles end over end. The professor makes a desperate dive. Clunk extends his metal arms. Zippy jumps as high as his tiny legs allow. The cheese pie lands perfectly, right on Clunk's flat metal head, sitting there like a golden crown. There is a long, stunned silence. Then the most wonderful smell wafts through the entire kitchen. Clunk's red eyes slowly shift back to soft, warm orange. His antenna tail gives one gentle wag. The professor bursts into the most enormous, belly-shaking laughter, slapping his knee over and over. And Zippy, staring up at the pie hat, looks absolutely heartbroken and absolutely hilarious at the same time. And so, as the golden afternoon light fills the cozy laboratory kitchen, Professor Crumble does something nobody expected. He cuts the cheese pie into 3 equal slices and sets one in front of each of them. Even Zippy gets his own piece, served on a thimble-sized plate. Clunk's robot taste sensor sparks with joy, his antenna tail wagging wildly. Zippy takes the most enormous, satisfied bite you have ever seen, and everyone agrees. It really was the most magnificent cheese pie in the whole wide world.